Hi and welcome to the Ruby and Pearls knitting channel. My name is Leah and I'm coming to you from West Wales in the UK, where I live with my partner and our two dogs Ruby and Pearl. I have a traditional format podcast for you today and I'm really excited to be here. I am not filming in my usual spot, so if you're a returning viewer, thank you so much for being here again. And you'll probably know that Ruby likes to make appearances, and so does Pearl, she's right here. If you are new, and I have had a flurry of new subscribers, so thank you so much for joining. I don't normally film down here. I normally film in a chair upstairs where I can't be bothered by the dogs, but they are both wet and covered in sand, and I'm a little bit concerned about letting them upstairs and letting them jump on the bed and all of those things. So I have some very active co-hosts. They should be really tired because they've been for a walk on the beach, but evidently they have decided not to be that tired. So we will see how this goes and how much I actually have to cut out. But yes, I've got two wet dogs. I have lots of projects. Ruby, can you lay down? I have lots to share with you. Come on. Come on, silly. What are you doing? Come on. So yeah, we will see how this goes. You can find me as Leah Amber Knits on Ravelry and on Instagram. You can't find Ruby anywhere apart from here on the podcast. I have had a flurry of new subscribers over here, so thank you so much if you are new. I thought I would do a little introduction to myself and my co-hosts, which, you know, you have already seen them. I wasn't quite expecting them to make such an announcement. But as I said, my name's Leah. I'm 32 years old. I live in Wales in the UK, but I am originally from Switzerland. I've been living here for, I don't know, 11, 12 years, something like that. I work in hospitality. What else do I need to say about myself? I've been knitting for over 25 years. I learned to knit when I was 4. I'm a very keen garment knitter. And I occasionally dabble in designing and other crafts such as crochet. And yeah, I do regular format podcasts, but I also do pattern roundups and knit and chats and bits and pieces. So if you have any suggestions or things that you'd like to see from me, please drop me a comment down below. This is not going particularly well. I've just had the tripod knocked by the dogs, but this is real life and we share real life on this channel. So there we are. I've told you where you can find me, I've told you some information about myself. My dogs could do with a proper introduction every now and then because I've had people ask me. So this is Ruby. She is a 2-year-old Cavapoo. She's about to turn 2 next week. And she is very sweet and very funny, but she is quite naughty as well. She's very strong-minded, she's very poodly, and she pretty much does what she wants. And yeah. She's more of a cat than a dog, so attention is sort of on her terms. Cuddles are on her terms. But she's very funny. She's very sassy. She's got lots and lots of attitude. She's got such a big personality. She's just, yeah, she's wonderful. She makes us laugh every day, and she's got the longest lashes on this earth. So yeah, we love our Ruby. And Pearl is a collie crossed with a Labradoodle. But you can mostly just see the collie and notice the collie in the behaviour. She's a little crazy, but she's extremely sweet and very loving. And yeah, she's a lovely girl. She's only 1, so she's still maturing. And she has her crazy moments, but then she also sleeps quite a lot. And she's quite relaxed and chilled out when she's had a walk. So she is the best of both worlds. She looks like a collie. She acts like a collie a lot of the time. She likes herding things, she likes stalking things, she loves playing with balls, she likes chasing Ruby around. We joke that she is the sheepdog and Ruby's the dog sheep because she needs shearing. And yeah, she's a lovely girl. And thankfully, because she's a cross, I think, she is also quite chilled out and she doesn't constantly need entertaining and work in that sense, because obviously they are a working breed. So yeah, that is my girls. That is me. I have got weird hair. I've just been to the beach, so please excuse whatever's going on there. I am wearing the Paul cardigan and I'm at a weird angle, so you probably can't see this very well. I'll put a picture in of me wearing this properly. This is one of my favourite items to wear. I absolutely love this cardigan, and I think I might have to film some kind of video on my 5 favourite items in my wardrobe and why I reach for them all the time. So if that's something you would like to see, let me know. I am very, very picky with my knitwear because I knit so fast, and if I put my mind to it, I can sort of knit 3 sweaters a month. I don't need 3 new sweaters every month, do I? So I end up passing a lot of them on. Sometimes I sell them, sometimes I gift them. So sweaters have to be perfect for me to keep them, and this one is absolutely perfect. But if I was to critique little bits and pieces, or if I was to knit it again, I would maybe change a few things. So it might be quite interesting to do a video on my 5 favourite items in my wardrobe, and there's a fly, and what I would change if I was to knit them again, which would just be minor details, wouldn't it? Because generally speaking, if they're my favourites, they're probably pretty close to perfect. Speaking of pretty close to perfect, let's jump into finished objects. This is my white day cardigan, and I will take some modelled photos after this so I can put a picture in, because I'm not wearing it. The only reason I'm not wearing it is because I got dressed upstairs and this was downstairs, so otherwise I would have worn this for the podcast. But it is a pattern by Maya Déglon from Maya Tinks. I had the pleasure of test knitting this for Maya, and she is my favourite podcaster, I say, and one of my favourite designers. Her attention to detail is phenomenal. She is very, very clever, and her designs are really, really stunning. So let me lift this up. It's been a bit creased, bear with me. There we are. This is my white day cardigan. It is a top-down saddle shoulder cardigan. And as you might be able to see when I show you like this, the saddles contain all the shaping so that the front and backs actually don't require any shaping. I've spoken about this before. If I show you the back, you start at the centre back there and you work the saddle across, and then you do decreases within the saddle before picking up stitches for the back and the front. And I'm not doing this any justice because it's creased, so I do apologise. I did just sort of take this off in a hurry and chuck it. But the sleeves have a beautiful taper to them, folded over cuffs, folded over hem at the bottom, double knit button band, all the beautiful neat details of a classic cardigan. And I absolutely love how this turned out. I knit mine in Yarnsmith's Pebble Haze in the shade Littlemite, which was kindly gifted to me by my lovely friend Emily from Emily Knits. And what else can I say about this pattern? It's supposed to have a tuck detail along here in a contrasting colour, but I decided not to put that there because I just wanted a classic cardigan. My only issue with this cardigan is that my gauge seems to have changed, because what I normally do with a saddle shoulder is I just cast on, I knit parts of the saddle, I measure my gauge, I check whether I'm on gauge. I know that this yarn doesn't move much during blocking because it is a cotton acrylic blend. So I checked my gauge and it was pretty accurate, it was going well, and for some reason when I measured my gauge after blocking, it was closer to sort of 18.5, 19 stitches instead of 17.5. So it is ever so slightly smaller than my intended, and therefore I think it's also slightly shorter because I've sort of tried to block it out a little bit sideways, even though that barely moves during blocking. So that is my only critique on myself, not on the pattern or the yarn. The yarn's beautiful, I love it too. And as you will be able to see shortly, I have a lot of Pebble Haze going on in my life at the moment. So this is the White Day cardigan, my finished object for this week's episode. Let's jump into whips. My first whip is the Laura scarf by Anna Stephenson. She goes by Yarn Moomin on Instagram, but her Instagram page for her designs is called House of Bleyer. She put a test call out for the Laura scarf recently, and it is a beautiful gingham scarf. And I'm knitting mine in Yarnsmith's Pebble Haze, but this is the recommended yarn actually for this pattern, so it's very rare that I actually use a recommended yarn. These are the shades. This is again the Aran Weight version of the Pebble Haze. These are the shades Lapis Lazuli and Marble? Yes, I think it's Marble. And I've just used 2 balls, one white and one blue, and I've just got to this point in the scarf. And the intention of the scarf is to use 3 of each colour, so it's going to be 3 times this length when it's finished. I am knitting this scarf for my dad. I think that's the plan anyway, because he would like a scarf, and I thought this would be quite nice colours for him, and it's quite a nice sort of gender neutral pattern. I think that looks really smart. I might have to knit myself one afterwards. What else can I say about this pattern? It has this all over gingham design. You work a fair bit of 1x1 colour work followed by solid blocks in the main colour and the contrast colour. In the pattern, Laura, this is the Laura scarf, not Laura, Anna instructs you to catch floats. I actually decided not to catch floats because they are all hidden within this tube scarf. So I felt that there was not really any need for catching floats. And so far, I know it looks a smidge bumpy in places, but I think after a good wash, this will look really, really good. And Dad, if you're watching, let me know. Do you like this? Do you think this is in your wheelhouse? If not, it will have to be a new scarf for me, but I do hope he likes it because I know he would like to have a scarf. And I have low motivation for scarf knitting, I have to be honest, especially if there's no shaping happening. I find it quite tedious and quite boring. So doing a test knit is a good way for me to actually ensure that I will finish it. I quite often test knit items that I intend to gift because it gives me the extra push to actually finish the thing. So that is whip number 1. I've got 5 whips today, by the way, which is a little bit unusual. I've been trying to stick to 2 to 3, but I'm really happy with all 5 of them. So yeah, let's jump on to the next one. Apologies if the lighting is changing. We've got a very variable day today. At 1 minute it's sunny, the next minute it's cloudy. It was raining heavily yesterday. We nearly had flooding. It was intense. This is what autumn looks like in the UK. This next whip will surprise many of you, I'm sure, because you haven't seen me knit socks before on this channel, have you? But we have a sock whip. I'm going to come in a bit closer so you can see how pretty this yarn is. I'm at a bit of an awkward stage because I'm currently working the heel flap, so I've got half the stitches on this needle, the other half on these 2. If you're curious, the needles I am using are the LeKnit needles double points, size 2.25 millimeter, which is my favourite method of knitting socks. And this is a pair of socks I'm knitting for my dad. So I cast on 72 stitches. I'm doing a vanilla sock, so I'm just following recipes that are in my head. 72 stitch cast on, 15 rounds of 1x1 rib, followed by 60 rounds of leg. And now I'm going into the heel flap and gusset, and I will have to continually measure the foot and figure out how long I need to make that for him. The yarn I am using is this gorgeous colour. I'm trying to remember what it was called, and I thought I had a label on hand, but I seem to have misplaced it. So I apologise, I don't know where the label is. I will insert here what the yarn is called. I think it's got some alpaca in there as well, so it has got a little bit of halo. I don't know if you can see that. But yeah, really fun. I had the urge to knit socks, and whenever I have the urge to knit socks, I try to cast on a pair for my dad because he is very knit worthy when it comes to socks, and I know he loves hand knitted socks, and I don't particularly wear them, so I thought it would be fun to cast on a pair for him. My next whip is the Rosie sweater by LeKnit, which I'm sure needs no introduction because it has been in the hot right now on Ravelry for weeks and weeks and weeks, and for good reason. It is an absolutely stunning design. I'll pop a picture on screen for you. I have reached the colour work and haven't gotten much further. So let me show you how far I am. You cast on with the back. You work a few very shallow short rows, and I spoke about this in my previous episode that I thought it was a bit odd how few short rows you needed, but you actually do the same amount of short rows in a mirrored fashion on the front, which I thought was quite interesting, and it creates this sort of ever so gentle raised situation on the shoulder here. And then you work the back to a certain length, you pick up for fronts, work those to a certain length, and then you join it in the round by picking up stitches for the sleeves. So I don't know if I can show you. It's a little bit of an awkward stage to show, but you pick up stitches along here and then you join in the round and you start working raglan increases, as you might be able to see. God. There we are, there's the raglan increases, and I have just started the colour work, and I think I'm going to do a little bit of work on this today. It requires a fair bit of concentration because this colour work chart isn't particularly geometric. It's not like the Laura scarf where I can just sort of, you know, knit a certain amount of stitches, do one by one colour work, knit a certain amount of stitches. It's not intuitive. You really have to pay attention to the chart, and it requires ladder back jacquard, at least in my opinion, in order to create floats that aren't too long. You could catch them, but they will be very visible, I think, especially if you've chosen a light colour like this, like I have. I'm going to have to put the colourways on screen because I cannot remember them off the top of my head, but this is, again, Yarn's Most Pebble Haze, but this time in DK version, and I think their DK yarn is quite a light DK. I've got the two colours here, and I think it's a really pretty combination. So this cream colour very much leans quite yellowy pinky, and I think it goes really well with the contrast colour, and you can see just a smidge of my colour work here, and the lighting's changed again, so oh dear, it's going to be fun this episode. I'm going to have to do so much cutting just at the start to cut out the dog craziness, so yay for editing Leah. But yes, this is a very enjoyable pattern, but I am now at the stage where it requires a lot of attention, so this will be a slow grower and you will be seeing this quite a bit in future, I think. This is the moment where I have to show you my mug, because doesn't that just look like Ruby? When I bought this mug, I think my other half actually thought that I sent off a photo of her to have printed on here, because you can have that done, can't you? But no, this is just a mug that came like this, and it so much looks like Ruby sort of slyly peeping around a corner, which is something she does very often. She loves playing games, and before I started filming they were chasing each other around our downstairs. So we have kitchen dining room over there, this is the living room, and the hallway is there. There's doors, but we have them all open so they can effectively run round in circles here if they want to, but they would constantly sort of run a little bit and then peep around the corners and run a little bit and peep at each other again, and it was very funny. So that's something she loves to do. Okay, let's talk about my next whip, which is also in Yarn's Whips Pebble Haze. So I've got a finished object in Pebble Haze and 3 whips in Pebble Haze. The obsession continues a little bit because I should have mentioned earlier when I spoke about my Paul cardigan, this is King Cole Orchard, which is also a favourite yarn of mine. And I knit lots of things in Orchard, and now I've sort of shelved that for a little bit. I'll definitely go back to Orchard because I love it, and there are new colours coming out, but at the minute I am into Pebble Haze. And this, again, I can't remember the colourway, it's terrible. But this is the Sylvan sweater, and it's in this beautiful, beautiful light cloud blue kind of colour. There we are, and it is at a bit of an awkward stage, so it's kind of hard to show you. Should I show you like this? I'll pop a picture in so you can see how beautiful this design looks when it's finished, because at the minute it's looking a bit funky because it's unblocked and I'm at an odd stage. So this is an Aran weight pattern. It is absolutely gorgeous. This is, I remember when this came out and I knew immediately that I definitely had to knit this at some point. And you start off, so this whole pattern so far has been so engaging to knit. I couldn't put this down until I finished the yoke. So you start off by making this beautiful cable across the top. You start in the middle and you work it outwards, and then you put stitches on hold here. You then pick up stitches for the back, work a little ways down, and then do some increases for the underarm. You then pick up stitches for each front separately, immediately start working the cable, and you actually increase for the V-neck on the outside of the cable here. And then you also work some underarm shaping. You join the V first, sorry, then you do the underarm shaping. And I have just recently joined in the round, and the cable changes slightly when you get to this point. So as you might be able to see, which I thought was so clever, this cable here, half of it kind of becomes just regular rib, so that's just going to run down the front, and the other half merges with the cable from the other side and becomes a new cable down the centre. And then the cables on the back here will run all the way down the sleeve. So just picking this up again after a couple of days not working on it makes me want to work on it again. It's such a beautiful design, and this yarn works so well for cables. I have noticed that because I recently cast on, I'm not sure if I shared this with you in the podcast, but I cast on a sweater, the Cara sweater by LeKnit. And I was planning to do a project vlog, and I'm not sure if this is going to happen anymore because I was knitting it in Drops Cotton Merino and doing lots of cables in cotton merino that is fairly slippery. It was so hard to do. So you know how lots of people talk about sticky yarns and rustic yarns being good for cables, because you can do cables without a cable needle and they sort of just stay in place when you drop them temporarily. Whereas if you're using a really slippery yarn, it's really difficult because they just want to flop away. And I'm not going back to a cable needle. I really don't enjoy working with cable needles. I really find it disrupts the flow of my knitting. But this yarn, because it's blown and it just has this little bit of a stickiness to it, but not too much stickiness, it's just absolutely perfect for cables. Like, I'm really, really enjoying this, and oh, I love this colour. Love, love, love. Need to get back on this once I've finished filming. Let's talk about my last whip. My last whip is the apostrophe slipover that I showed the other day in my slipover pattern roundup video. And when I was making that video, I knew I wanted a slipover, and I wanted actually a cozy, oversized layering piece, and instead I cast on a piece that I'll actually probably wear on its own wall. I might still wear it over the top of a long sleeve t-shirt, but it's definitely not the cozy oversized thing I was looking for. But this pattern's got so much fun construction type stuff going on, so I really, really wanted to cast this on. I'll show you the yarn first. I am pairing these two together. This is DMC Woolly that I purchased in a D-stash recently. It is a 100% superwash merino. See how accurate that is. Probably not super accurate. And the yarn I'm using alongside it is called Jazz Up by Rico Design. And as you might be able to see here, it is a very thin thread. It doesn't add anything in terms of thickness to the yarn, but it adds these little fuzzy neps. You can see better in the ball there. And I just thought this superwash merino was a very flat colour. It hasn't really got any heathering or anything going on, so I really wanted to add a little something extra to it. And this is what's happened. Now, I am going back and forth between whether or not I like this combination. I'm going to show you the back, and this is at the stage that's really hard to show as well, so I do apologise about that. Now that I've got a decent amount of fabric, I think this looks quite funky and quite cool. When I first started off, I sent Emily a photo and I said, what do you think? I think it's giving colourful skin tag. And she said, oh yeah, can't unsee that now, thank you. So as you can see, as opposed to those other sort of hold along threads that you can buy that just make a yarn into a tweed yarn, because Rico also do a make it tweed, and I really like that one. This one's got much more three-dimensional aspects to it. And yeah, I was a little bit torn, but I think once this whole thing is finished, it won't feel so weird. This pattern is really clever and I'm really enjoying working on it. I am currently working on the left front. As you might be able to see here, you cast this on with a provisional cast on at the centre back here. You work the shoulders outwards, so from here to here and vice versa. You work some increases, so all of this is actually worked in the back. I don't know if you can, oh, this is going to be really hard to show. Let me pull on that cable, there we are. This whole piece here is the back, up to where I'm holding it up here. So you work some increases here. You then cast on a load of stitches and work a little section here. And this is the tiny little bit that's on the shoulder. And I thought what was really cool about this design is that if you remove the ribbing, this is like a really narrow slip over. And then it's got this really bold ribbing that's really wide. And it just, I don't know, it just looks really cool. The shaping looks really cool. So yeah, you do this mirrored on both sides. And these markers here actually show where the top of the shoulders is. You then work a section on the back with some pretty substantial underarm increases. As you might be able to see, I've got so many ends flying around. There we are. There's some pretty substantial shaping going on, again, because it's quite far in and then there's going to be all this ribbing added to it. You then pick up stitches for the front. I'll show you on the side that I've completed. And you only pick up this tiny little bit here, out of this shoulder bit here. And then you work some increases, you cast on some stitches for the front neck, and then you work down. And you just do a slip stitch edge here, so it rolls a little bit, but there's going to be buttons inserted. And I haven't actually figured out yet at what point I'm doing buttonholes, so I need to figure this out and read a bit further ahead in the pattern. Basically, I should have read the whole pattern first of all, but I'm not very good at doing that. But I don't think this is intended to ever be worn open really, so it doesn't really matter that it curls a little bit. But yeah, I am really enjoying this. It is not the fastest project because of the jazz up yarn. You really have to kind of pay attention that you're picking up that thread as well, because unlike mohair that sort of likes to stick to your main yarn, this doesn't stick at all. It's just sort of there and it's really easy to miss it. So it requires a little bit more attention, but yeah, I think it's going to be cute. Yeah. Let me know what you think of this jazz up. Cute? Weird? Skin taggy? I don't know. I'm still on the fence. I keep flipping back and forth. So I would love to know what you think. So those are my 5 whips that I would like to share with you today. The last thing I wanted to talk to you about is some more knit and chat topics that have popped into my head, and I'd love to hear what you think. So the main one I thought about talking about is my sort of evolution through fibre types, how I went from just using natural fibres into using more synthetic fibres and machine washable fibres, and why. And I thought I could do a knit and chat where I talk about all the pros and cons of different fibres, because there's pros and cons to everything, right? And how I take care of my knits. So I thought that might be quite an interesting topic to talk about. What's really important to me with my knit and chats is that I don't just ramble on about things that have popped into my head. I'd really like to talk about some topics, some specific topics that are a bit more educational maybe, because I'd love to share more of my knowledge and my experience from all the many years of knitting that I have under my belt. So yeah, talking about different fibre types, I think would be really cool. In my last knit and chat, I spoke about tips and tricks if you've never knit a garment before. So let me know down below if that's something you would like to see. Let me know if you have any other topics you'd love to hear my experience on. And let me know what you were knitting on while you were watching this slightly chaotic video. And I will speak to you very, very soon. Thank you for watching.